iOS 18 is loaded with hundreds of new features, but it also includes several new settings that you probably didn't even know existed. So in this video, I'm going to show you 27 settings that you need to change immediately after installing iOS 18 on your iPhone. So first off, I'm sure you've been there. You have music playing, and then you open up the camera application, and it's on video, so your music pauses. iOS 18 fixes that. Go into your settings, go to camera, and then into record sound. And right here, we have a brand new toggle in iOS 18 called allow audio playback. And having this enabled will allow you to play music while you're recording a video, and it will also prevent the accidental pausing of music when you open up your camera accidentally. And while we're in the camera, I want to show you another setting you need to change, which by the way, we can also now pause video recordings in iOS 18. So that's a new feature right there, but that's not what I'm showing you. So now in iOS 18, if you have a video that you recorded at 60 FPS or maybe 120 FPS if you have an iPhone 16 Pro, if you go to edit that video, you'll see a new option up in the top right, that little speedometer icon. If you tap on that, this will allow you to change the playback speed after you record the video. So before in iOS 17, you could only change the playback speed if you were in slow-mo mode. But now in iOS 18, you can do it when you record normally in video mode. So if I take this down to 30 FPS, I can choose with a slow-mo like interface down here where I want the video to play at 30 FPS instead of 60 FPS. So there's no denying the fact that the Photos application is very confusing and very overwhelming at first, because if you go down here, there's just a lot to see. There's a lot of different albums, a lot of different sections. It can be very confusing. So the next setting you want to change is down here under Customize and Reorder. So all the way at the bottom of the Photos application, we now have Customize and Reorder, and you want to deselect the albums that you do not want to see in the Photos application. So I just deselected everything I do not want showing up on the home screen of the Photos application, but maybe I want the utilities to be higher up. I want to be able to see that right underneath in my pinned collections. I can move that around. So you want to not only deselect some of these, but also move them around to how often you think you're going to actually want to see those different, collections or albums, whatever the case may be. So now if I go out of here, you can see everything is in the order that I like, and it's also a lot less overwhelming. There's a lot less to see now. It's just what I actually want to see. Now, the next thing you need to change are your lock screen shortcut buttons. So if you haptic press on your lock screen and go to Customize and then go to your lock screen, you can see that you can now customize the quick controls down here. So if you tap on the minus, that will eliminate them, which will give you a really clean look on your lock screen. You can see what that looks like here, especially if I go out of the focus mode, very clean. However, if you tap on plus, you have several different options to choose from, including opening up applications straight from the lock screen. So if you go to choose right here, you can choose any of your applications you have installed to open up straight from the lock screen. So the next setting you need to change has to do with scheduling messages. So this is a new feature in iOS 18 where you can now schedule an iMessage to send at a later date. Now this is kind of hidden. So if you tap on the plus to the left of the messages box, there's nothing here that's new. However, if you swipe down, you'll see that we have a new send later option. And if you tap on that, this will allow you to schedule an iMessage. You can tap right here and choose the time, and you can send whatever you want, and you can choose the time that it will send. So we'll do 12 p.m. and we'll go ahead and send, and you can see it will show the date and time it's set to send at. We could also edit that message if we would like to. So if you plan on using this more than once, you need to tap and hold on send later and drag up and move this into your main section in your messages so you can access it easier. So if you don't like how we have this blue blinking cursor when you're not typing, you can actually disable that now with iOS 18. So I didn't realize how big of an annoyance this is to some people. So if you go into your settings and go to accessibility, go to motion, and then down here we have a new toggle that you might want to turn on, which is off by default, called prefer non-blinking cursor. And when you enable that and go back, the cursor just stays solid. It does not blink any longer. Next up, you need to adjust the view of your calendar. So with iOS 18, you have multiple different sizes for your calendar here. So if I zoom in like so, you can see that I have this view now. You can kind of just pinch to change the view of your calendar, and it will stay like that until you change it. So if I force quit out of here and then I go back in to the calendar, you'll notice it stays that view. So just change this to whatever size you prefer. So with iOS 18, you're now allowed to interrupt Siri in the middle of it giving a response to you. However, sometimes that can cause issues where you say something and it stops Siri from giving you the response. Well, now you can change that. So head into your settings, go to accessibility, and then go down to the bottom and go to Siri. And then in here, we have a new toggle that is disabled by default called Require Siri for Interruptions. If you turn that on, you'll have to say either Siri or Hey S to interrupt a Siri response. So you'll no longer be able to just talk over Siri when she's giving you a response. You will have to say one of the trigger words now. So this can help with any inadvertent interruptions to Siri while giving you a response. And we may as well talk about this one since we're right here. So we also have listen for atypical speech. So this is also disabled by default, but if you have any type of speech impediment, or if you have different speech patterns that are maybe hard for Siri to pick up on, you can enable this and Siri will try to get better at listening and understanding you. Now let's talk about the battery. So if you go into your settings and go to battery and then into the charging section, you'll see that we have a brand new charge limit interface. So before in iOS 17, you only had the option to set your charge limit to 80% or 100%. That was it. Now you can set it to anything in between in 5% increments. And what this does is it will only charge your phone up to that given percent. So it will only charge my phone up to 90% in this example, no matter how long it's on the charger. So I would recommend staying between 80 and 90%. That's just better for your battery long term, but you do have the flexibility here to go up to 95% if you want. But just keep in mind that optimized battery charging is only available when you have this set to charge the full 100%. If you have it set to even 95%, that will gray out optimized battery charging. And now that we don't need optimized battery charging anymore, you might want to go in and disable a potential battery drainer. And this one is pretty well known here on the channel. So if you go to your settings and go down to privacy and security and into location services, and then down to the bottom, go to system services, and then in here, go down to significant locations. So once again, this is on by default because it does help with recommendations. And also, once again, significant locations is required in order for optimized battery charging to work, which in the past, that was always a must-have feature. Optimized battery charging was good for the battery. So most people would only enable significant locations so that the optimized battery charging feature would work properly. But now, once again, if you have an iPhone 15, you can feel free to go in here and turn this off. And just to clarify, significant locations is a feature that uses your location frequently to learn places that are significant to you and will help you with, recommendations in your maps and your spotlight, all of that. So it does help, but it does also potentially cause battery drain, and it could also cause, a lot of tracking. So if you're not a fan of tracking, and if you're not a fan of potential battery drain, you might want to turn this off. But even unrelated to optimized battery charging, or even if you don't have an iPhone 15 or newer, it's good to know that this setting exists. Now, this next setting is going to be a game changer for those who speak more than one language. So if you go into your settings and go to general, and then go down to keyboard, go into keyboards, and then go into English US or whatever your first language is. And then right here under languages, we have the option to add language. And when you do that, we can now add another language to our keyboard. So for example, I'll choose Portuguese Brazil right here. And now we have two different languages here. And now if you go into your keyboard, you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner of the space bar, it will show the two languages that you have set up. And now you can actually have a bilingual keyboard. So you can type two different languages at the same time and get suggestions for each language at the same time. So for example, if I start typing in English, you can see that all of my predictions are in English. But if I replace that and I start talking in Portuguese, you can see it will give me suggestions in Portuguese as well using the same keyboard. This next one is for all of my iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 16 users with an action button. So if you go into your settings and go to action button, if you never found use for it before, you might find use for it with iOS 18 because we not only have this new section here for controls. So you can now access different controls like you might see in the control center, for example. Like my favorite one here is dark mode. So I can turn my device into dark mode and out of dark mode with just a press of the action button. But you could also use it for some of your connectivity settings. You have utilities, wallet, watch, all of that right here. So just explore the controls tab. And then also there's the recognize music action now for the action button. So if you're somebody who uses Shazam a lot, you always are out and about and you hear music that you might not know, that can be convenient to have linked to the action button now. Next up, you need to change which applications actually show up on your device. And what I mean by that is that now with iOS 18, you can not only lock applications with Face ID, but you could also hide them completely from your device. So let's say, for example, I don't want anybody getting into my Discord application. We can haptic press on that, and we have a new option here called Require Face ID. If you do that, you might want to select Hide and Require Face ID, not just Require Face ID. So if you do that, that will scan your face real quick, and you will get this menu that says Hide Discord, and it will tell you basically that you're not going to get any notifications, and it will be completely obscured. So tap on Hide App, and now it's gone. You will not see it. Even if I search up here for it, it will not show up. However, if you go all the way over to your app library and then go all the way down to the bottom, there's a new folder called Hidden, and you can tap on that and scan your face, and it will show you your hidden applications. And by the way, if you want to reference these settings later on, or you just prefer a written format, I've created a PDF companion guide for this video, and you can download it, plus all of my past and future guides, along with hefty discounts on my wallpapers for just $6 a month. Or if you only want this one, there is also a one-time payment option available as well. So click on the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen for more details. Now, if you have iOS 18 and the AirPods Pro 2, you need to change this next setting. So if you go into your AirPods settings right here and then scroll down under the audio section and look for adaptive audio, go into that menu. And that's where you'll see this, a new way to customize adaptive audio to either let in less noise or more noise. So adaptive audio, if you don't know, is basically a mix of active noise cancellation and transparency mode. So if you want more noise to be able to come in from transparency mode, you can have that set. Or if you want less noise from transparency mode to come in, you can have it set to less if you're not satisfied with the default setting. And here's another AirPods setting that you need to change, and this applies to the AirPods Pro 2 and the AirPods 4. So if you go down here, you'll notice that we have a new section called Head Gestures. So if you turn this on, that will allow you to shake your head up and down to accept a phone call, or shake your head side to side like you're saying no to decline the phone call. So this can be very beneficial if you're in a quiet place like a library or an elevator and you're getting a phone call. You don't have to tell Siri yes. You could just shake your head up and down or side to side. And this does also work for replying or dismissing notifications. And you can go ahead in here and change this setting as well if you would like to. So if you want to reverse this, you can. If you want to shake your head side to side to say yes instead of no, you can do that as well. Now here's a setting you might want to change that's related to the music application and also Apple Music Classical. So you'll see that we have this new glyph icon underneath of the now playing bar in Music Now, and that is for music haptics. And what this does is it gives you the haptics to the beat of the music. So you can actually feel the vibrations coming from the back of the phone to the beat of the music, which is awesome if you're deaf, hard of hearing, or if you just like the way that this feels and the feature in general. Especially if you know the lyrics, it's really cool to be able to feel the beat of the music, and you can kind of sing along since you already know the lyrics. And if you use this feature a lot and you want to be able to turn it on the fly, you can add it as a control inside of the control center. Now the next thing you need to change in iOS 18 is your browsing experience. So in Safari, we have a brand new feature called Distraction Control. And this is essentially an ad blocker, but for different elements on a website. So if we tap on the reader icon in the address bar, there's a new option for hide distracting items. If you tap on that, you will get this interface now where it just says to select an item. So for example, for cookie banners, this is probably the best example. So we'll select the cookie banner and then click on hide, and now it's gone with that Thanos snap animation. Same with this little hand icon down here. If we never want to see that again on this website, we could just go ahead and select that and then press again and it's gone. So this allows you to remove annoying elements on a web page and they stay hidden after a refresh as long as the element doesn't change. So for ads, for example, dynamic ads, those will still come back. So if we go to this website, you'll see that we have multiple ads. And if we go ahead and hide those, they will disappear. They will be hidden for our current session, But if we were to go to another web page or reload this web page, they will just reappear because they change dynamically on the website. So this feature only works for hiding elements that do not change, elements that are static, not dynamic. But still, it does make a big difference for hiding some of the more annoying things on a website, such as the full page banners, the Google sign-in forms, all those things that don't typically change very often. So hiding distracting items is cool, but there's another great feature in Safari in iOS 18 that you need to make sure is enabled. So if you go into your settings and go to Safari and then scroll down all the way down here, you'll want to make sure that highlights is turned on. This is a great feature in iOS 18 that allows you to see summaries of articles. So you can see when you go into the reader view, we have the summary of that article right there. It also works for showing information about people. So we have Ben Affleck right here, and you can see that when I press the reader view, it shows me a summary of who he is, and it shows me up here, who it is as well. And if I tap on that, it will take me to his Wikipedia page. Or even if you go to a hotel or restaurant website and tap right here, it will show you the location, and sometimes it will even show you their phone number up here as well. So it just makes everything easier to see previews and just see more information about the web page that you're on. So definitely make sure that highlights is enabled. So iOS 18 introduced the passwords application, which is an excellent application for keeping track of your passwords, passkeys, Wi-Fi networks, and so on. However, you need to change some settings. And before we get to the settings, you do also need to go into one of these folders. So whether that be all, passkeys, Wi-Fi, whatever, go into here and go down to the sorting options, and you'll want to change this from the default. So by default, this is set to show everything in alphabetical order, but I don't know about you, I like seeing my most recent passwords first. So you can do that right here by changing this setting to date edited or even date created. So this will only show the passwords I created in the last week, and if I go to date edited, this will show me any of the passwords that I edited within the past week, and it will be in order of the dates. And then if you go into the passwords settings, we do have some settings in here that you might want to change as well. So we have show accounts as, you can change that from titles and websites. We have detect compromised passwords. You will probably want to have that enabled. Suggest strong passwords and allow automatic passkey upgrades. I would recommend keeping all of these enabled. And then also if you go into view autofill settings, I noticed that with iOS 18, this setting right here, which is a very important setting that I love, was disabled. Even though it was enabled before the update, the delete after use for verification codes was disabled. So if that also happened to you, I would recommend going ahead and turning this back on. This is also in a new area in settings now with iOS 18. So if you want to automatically delete your two-factor authentication codes once you receive them, you can select this and it will auto delete those 2FA codes and messages and in mail after they are used. That is very helpful for getting rid of those messages that no longer serve a purpose. And there is also this setup codes in setting as well. So if you have another application that you want to set up verification codes in, you can set that right there. Okay, so next up, let's reduce some of the tracking that happens on our device. So if you go into your settings and go to Wi-Fi and then tap on the eye next to your Wi-Fi network that you're connected to, and then in here we have a private Wi-Fi address. And if this is not on rotating, you might want to consider changing this to rotating. And Apple describes what this does right here. So this will help reduce tracking by changing your Wi-Fi address at various times. And keep in mind that this is separate from limit IP address tracking. This changes the MAC address, whereas this changes the IP address for Mail and Safari. So you can have both enabled at the same time, and they'll do two separate things. Now we also have a privacy and security setting we need to change. So if you go into your settings and then go down here to privacy and security, and then scroll down until you get to contacts, because this has a change in iOS 18. So you can now give applications limited access to your contacts instead of giving them full access. So before in iOS 17, you had no option. You either gave an application full access to your contacts or you gave them no access at all. But now with iOS 18, you can give applications limited access and you can continue to add on to that limited access as time goes on. And we'll add our test contact right here. And then when we go back, we have an edit selected contact contacts option right here where we can add on to that list if we would like to. And by the way, if you're finding this video useful, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. These type of videos are my specialty, and you'll stay in the know about new iPhone features before all of your friends if you subscribe. Now this next setting is kind of hidden if you don't know about it, and that is vehicle motion cues. So if you go into your control center, you can see I have it added right here, but if you do not, you can tap on the plus in the top left, go to add control and just search for motion, and you will see vehicle motion cues. And if you haptic press on this icon, this will allow you to automatically enable this in a vehicle, turn it on permanently, or turn it off. And you can see what it looks like here with the black dots around the screen. That's how this feature works. So what this does is use these animated dots on the edges of the screen to represent changes in vehicle motion to help reduce sensory conflict without interfering with the main content on your page that you're looking at. If you watch Apple TV on your iPhone or iPad, you'll definitely want to know this next setting. So go into your settings, go to accessibility, and then go down till you get to audio and visual right here. And then scroll down and we have a new toggle called add voice isolation. This is disabled by default, but you might want to enable this. So if you're watching a show and you tap on the three dots right here and then go into audio and then under enhanced dialogue, this will add a new setting there called isolate. And this will really isolate everything except for the voices. So you'll be able to hear voices extra good. So this is even better than enhancing the dialogue. If you isolate the dialogue, it will really allow you to hear pretty much everything going on in the scene. It will drain out some of the music and some of the background noise, so you won't get the full effect of the show, but it is really nice to at least have as an option. So next you need to set up guest access within your home. So if you tap on the three dots up in the top right and then go to home settings, we have the option for guests right here. And if you go to that, after you invite somebody, you can set their schedule so they can only, for example, unlock the front door on certain days and at certain times. So for example, if I have a pet sitter, for example, and they only come from 9 to 11 on certain days of the week, I can set their time there and then go to every week and deselect the days that the pet sitter does not come. So maybe the pet sitter only comes on Monday and Friday and they only need to be there for a couple of hours. I can set that and then we can go to done. And again, it's just to get in and out of the front door and then we can invite them. And then also in our home settings, another thing you need to change has to do with your home hubs. So if you go to home hubs and bridges right here, you might want to deselect automatic selection if you want to choose a preferred home hub. So you can set that up if you want something else in your house to be the home hub instead of maybe the Apple TV. If you want it to be a HomePod instead, you can change that right there. Now here's a setting you need to change, especially if you have an Apple Watch. So in iOS 18, you can not only download maps, but you can also now download specific hikes to use offline. So these are areas where you typically will lose signal. So you can add this to your library now and it will download the route for you so you don't get lost. And here's the setting you need to change. So if you go down, there's a new toggle here for sync with Apple Watch. And this says that new maps you download to your iPhone will also download to your watch. So you're going to want to enable that if you have an Apple Watch. And I'm just going to include this as a bonus. You need to enable RCS. So this is on by default. That's why I did not count it in this list, but you need to enable RCS if it was somehow disabled because this is a big change in iOS 18. So you'll see RCS right there, but if you go into your settings and go to messages, you'll see under text messaging, we have RCS messaging. You want to go into here and make sure that is enabled. That is going to make your experience messaging Android users, or if you're in a group chat with Android users, a lot more enjoyable. So be sure to enable that. So you'll get all the benefits, pretty much all the benefits that you get with iMessage. So those are some of the first settings that you need to change on iOS 18. So if you found yourself changing at least one setting throughout this video, I would appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see the first settings to change in macOS Sequoia, you can check that out on the screen right now, along with another video I think you'll like about my desk setup. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.